So I thought it'd be a good idea to dress somewhat similar to Marky Mark for this review, and I've sunk into a whole new level. So Mile 22 is a new action film directed by Peter Berg and starring Mark Wahlberg. This is their fourth collaboration after Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day, and tells the story of an elite tactical unit who are tasked with delivering an asset, otherwise known as Uwaise, from this fictional Asian country to the US in extraction in order to get some information from him. And there we have our setup for our big, long, hour-and-a-half action sequence. Now, as I said, this movie is directed by Peter Berg and starring Mark Wahlberg, and this is their fourth collaboration, and this made me very excited going into this film because I'm a huge fan of these two paired up. After Lone Survivor, which I thought was great, Deepwater Horizon, which I thought was fantastic, and Patriots Day, which almost cracked my top 10 last year, I was very, very excited about this just because of the names attached alone. I'm a huge fan of their work together, so instantly I was very excited about Mile 22. And I was very interested as well because this is their very first film they've done together that isn't based on a true story. So I was interested to see how they could adapt a fictional story, something that they've come up with themselves, instead of adapting something. So it was very interesting, but this movie, very disappointing. Now, Mark Wahlberg is an interesting talking point in this movie because I'm kind of in two minds about him here. On the one hand, his character is so terribly written, absolutely appalling. It's so poorly handled, and it's amazing how badly written his character is, and also how cheesy some of the lines are. And he's also just a horrible person. Like, he's just the worst bloke. Like, you don't want to be with this guy. You don't want to spend time with him because he'll just shoot you down. Like, he's just one of them. He's one of those guys, you know, it comes down to the point that there are absolutes in the world, and he is one of them. He is just there. He will tear you down. He will argue with you. He will fight with you. He just cares about himself, and it's just, he's one of those characters. However, on the other hand, Mark Wahlberg is chewing scenery like you've never seen it before in this movie. He's chewing scenery like there's nothing left in the world, and it's actually really entertaining to see Mark Wahlberg just really get into this role, because you can actually see he's having quite a lot of fun with it. He's not bad in this movie at all. He's actually quite good in this movie. It's like I said, it's just his character is so bad, but to see him chew scenery like this is actually something quite entertaining, and it's actually something to behold. Also, Uwaise is in this movie. He is, of course, the lead from the Raid films, and he plays the asset who they are trying to extract, and he was fantastic in this film as well. Very charismatic, definitely a very interesting addition to the film, and I really enjoyed his action sequences. Obviously, that is why you get Uwaise. You get him for fantastic action sequences, and from what you could see in this film, he was wonderful. He really delivered some excellent action sequences, you know, hand-to-hand, and also a couple of gun combat scenes as well, and a particular scene that a lot of people have mentioned, but it is very much true. There is a sequence where he's stuck to a hospital bed having to fight two guys at once. It's very well executed on his part. Now, I said on his part because this draws me into the negatives of this film. The editing, oh my good god, is it dreadful. It's so choppy and so poorly done. You can't see the action in this film. This is an action film. You go into it expecting a decent action film. You don't get to see any of the action because it's so choppily edited. Now, why is it choppily edited? I have no idea, because Peter Berg has never done this before in any of his other films that I've seen, and I don't understand why he did it here, because the main reason you do choppy editing on purpose is to hide or mask poor stunt work. But like I said, when you have an actor and stunt coordinator like Uwaise, you don't need to hide poor stunt work because there's no poor stunt work to hide. So it's very confusing to me as to why this choice was made, because to me, it feels very intentional. I don't feel like this was a mistake, because again, I've seen Peter Berg do many films before, and he's never done this before. So to take that and suddenly do it in Mile 22, it feels very intentional, and again, I don't see why he did it, because there was no need to mask poor stunt work, because you have Uwaise. He was also a stunt coordinator on this movie, so he was actually doing all the choreography, so why are you doing this choppy editing? Is it a style thing? I guess it is, but it's a terrible style, something I thought we moved past. But no, Mile 22 wants to bring it back, and it's easily the worst part of this film. It's very frustrating and very distracting. And like I said about how poorly written Mark Wahlberg's character was, the entire script throughout this film is really, really dumb. There is a lot of really cheesy lines, there's a lot of really obvious, annoying lines, there's just a lot of moments in this film that kind of make you scratch your head and throw your eyes up a couple times. At least that's what I found, at least with the movie. And there are a lot of times, especially because at the very beginning of the movie, there's like this setup mission where you get to see the team kind of working together, and there's these two agents, one of them's played by Cohan and the other one's just this random guy, and they're just talking, and their dialogue is back and forth, and at first I wasn't sure if this was a mission or not, but then you do realise it is a mission. But even though it is a mission, their dialogue they go absolutely nowhere. Like, they're literally just going back and forth, saying the same thing to each other back and forth. It's terrible. And I was sat there, like, getting infuriated at this guy, because I was like, say something normal that's actually going to progress this conversation, because it's not going anywhere. And I'm getting very irate about this, so I need to calm myself down. But it was very annoying, and I just found the scripting in this movie overall to be very weak and very dumb. And also, this film never takes a second to breathe. Now, sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes in films like this, you know, where it's just constant hitting you, bombardment, it can actually be a good thing if you are invested in the characters and the story. However, the story and characters in this film are very weak, so you don't care about them, so therefore the constant bombardment of action and the constant threat that's on these characters, you just don't really care because you're not that invested. And like I said, if a movie like this actually had good characters, good development, good story, it'd be fine to have this movie keep going on and on and on with the action, just to never stop going, because again, this movie is only an hour and a half long, so it could only do that for so long. So it could do that, and it could literally just do that where it's constant bombardment of action, and if we cared about the characters, that would be fine, but we don't. So in the end, it just never feels like it lets up, and it never lets you just take a second to breathe, to actually look around and go, okay, let's just take a moment and spend time with the characters, because again, it doesn't want to, because it pretty much knows how bad these characters are. So it's quite a shame that this movie is just a constant, non-stop action film. Overall, I found Mile 22 to be immensely disappointing. While there is some fun to be had, I was never bored in this movie. I think this is most certainly an entertaining film. You can go see it and be entertained. I just found it very disappointing as a fan of Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg's previous films. I really feel like this film comes nowhere near close to Lone Survivor, Deepwater Horizon or Patriots Day. It's nowhere near those films, and I feel like it was just very disappointing. And even ignoring those past films, it's just the scripting is so poor and the editing is really frustrating. It will really take you out of the movie at times, and I just did not enjoy it as much as I really wanted to, and it's a shame because I really wanted to like this movie. So did you guys see Mile 22? If you did, make sure you tell me all your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Let's have a conversation about this movie. And as always, guys, if you want to see more movie reviews from me, be sure to subscribe, and hope to see you guys again in my next video.